And Hillary with her demon eyes is biting Muslims' armpits. And you're like, what the?
Welcome to 2.5 Beards podcast.
Who's the half beard?
That's me. Where the statistics aren't real and the opinions don't matter.
My mic is sponsored by Ed Stetzer's Soul Patch. Calling you out, Ed.
So we appreciate the donation of this new microphone, and we'll try to make the sound quality better. But if you have any more comments, please just email us. Also, we purposely don't research or prepare for this.
No.
We might one day, but for now, we do no preparation.
And I want to point out I am educated. I have multiple
Contusions.
credits from a community college. I got a D in macroeconomics, okay? You know?
I have
right.
enough credits at TMCC to have an AA, but they're not the right classes because I think 14 of the credits are ceramics. And
Best class.
3 of the credits are wilderness survival.
I took fencing. I stabbed the crap out of people's neck.
Fencing was a great class.
They told me not to, and I kept doing it.
All right, so let me welcome Tyler Macaluso.
Hey, how's it going?
Tyler is here. We decided to bring him on to this podcast because he's a very knowledgeable and well-spoken postmillennial.
Some would say an expert in the field.
Okay, so I had a good story that I thought could maybe segue well into a topic that we could discuss. Possibly. Maybe not. We'll see where it goes. And it's actually the story, from my perspective, of when we met Seth. So it's kind of an interesting story. I think you've told it. I've heard you tell it before.
I've told it in sermons because I didn't forget.
I heard that. I want to say my perspective because I don't know if I have been adequately represented in the story. So, Seth, it's 4th grade, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe the second week of 4th grade. I'd been going to this school, Lena Juniper, all my life. And you just showed up. You were a new kid. And you were homeschooled up until 4th grade, right?
Yeah, I had my mom as my teacher.
Yeah. And so when you came to 4th grade, would it be fair to say there were some social norms that you were unacquainted with?
I was weird.
School?
Yeah, I had some things like I didn't know, what was a big one? I didn't know how to interact with living things. Other than that, I did great. I mean, other than interaction and academics, I was like great at school.
I heard your handwriting was actually not that good.
They said, so they called in my parents. Funny story.
You can say her name.
Say
her name. Call her out.
Look, let's call her Mrs. Ifith.
Yeah.
With a G and a R at the beginning. Here's the funny thing, public education people. They started out calling my parents because they thought I had a learning disability. They're like, look at his handwriting. He doesn't turn in homework. And my dad's like, no, he's just lazy. He's like, Seth, try right now. Show him your handwriting. And I did like better. And so I just wasn't trying. The next year, they nominated me for Talent Academy. So they went from saying I had a learning disability to we think you're gifted and bored, which both were true. So.
Amen. So either way, it was kind of a rough start for you. I remember seeing you in the classroom because we were in the same class, Miss Griffith's class. And I remember thinking, that kid's weird and he has cool shorts on. I wonder what that kid's all about. But I didn't bother because I had my own life going on. And so anyways, flash forward 2 weeks after school starts or something like that. And I come out and the playground at Lena Juniper Elementary is just kind of a hill with some gravel. And there's I think there's a basketball court and some swings, but for the most part, it's just a hill with some gravel. And you are at the bottom of the hill, face in the gravel, with 3 people on top of you, punching you. Okay, this is what I remember seeing. I come over, I come over the hill where I can see the bottom of the hill, and you're at the bottom. And Taylor is punching you. A kid named Taylor is punching you in the face and in the ribs.
Mm-hmm.
There's a kid straddling you on top of you named Dennis.
Yes, continue.
And there's a kid named Justin on the side, kicking
Justin,
your
yeah.
face and kicking your hips. And they're like literally, and Dennis, when he's pulling your hair, he's forcing your face into the gravel. And I'm like, whoa. And I'm like, I should intervene. But then I'm like, let's see how this plays out. And so I just
far
kind
our
of
stories match up.
I just kind of watched them, but I wanted to see a couple of things. One, I had always been told big things come in small packages, and you were pretty skinny. And I think you were a lot shorter than me. I don't know how short you were compared to the average cohort of Lena Jibber Elementary, but either way, I was like, I'm going to see this kid turn it around. If I know anything from movies, he's going to do a crazy pull on somebody's shoulder and then have all these guys whooped. Or a luck dragon's going to come out of the sky and help him or something like that.
Did either of those happen, Sean?
Neither of them did. And by the time I decided to intervene, which I did eventually, the bell rang and I had to be back in class. I had a lot of stuff going on. And so anyways, I remember after that fight, though, I think I walked up to you and I was like, hey, man, I saw you just getting beat up by those kids. I want you to know they don't represent the full class, and you seem like a cool guy, and I really respect you taking a beating like that and not tattling on those kids. Because even as a fourth grader, second week into public school, if Seth Wild shoots anything, he's not a rat. Right? And so I remember at that point, we became friends and started hanging out, drawing comic books together, playing Final Fantasy Imagination Time together. I'd go to your house, you'd go to my house, and that was it. That was history. Right? Was that how we met?
I ain't no rat. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And the weird thing is, I've had my head kicked in so many times. I don't even remember why they were mad at me. Because let's just be fair. I've pissed a lot of people off sometimes. Well, most of the time unintentionally. But yeah, they got some good shots. And I will say, though.
It was because you were weird.
Was that it?
Yeah, I mean, I do fully remember, like, there was kids that get picked on that were weird. That I feel sorry, like even taking place and picking on them sometimes. There were some weird kids.
Do you?
And it seemed like you were destined to become one of them.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you never did, because those kids are so weird. So that's how we met. And then
I would like to point out I fought all those kids eventually one-on-one over the next 3 years.
That's true. Seth adopted the South American guerrilla warfare tactic where he would get them alone. It was a fair fight. It wasn't unfair by any means.
One of those specifically, and you know which one in 6th grade,
Mm-hmm.
I settled that. I settled my
Absolutely.
debt. I won that one.
Yeah, Seth, one by one, started picking them off his list and adding kids to his list. And so I remember from elementary school, I remember us meeting, obviously, but I remember there was this difference about you. Some would say it was because you were homeschooled for so many years and thrust into public school in 4th grade. And I think to this day, you've never really quite adjusted to public
Nor
education.
do I want to.
But I remember you were so different because, I don't know how to say it. Maybe that the light of life hadn't gone out of your eyes yet, like it had every other kid.
Yeah, I wasn't completely, I mean, I was emotionally crippled, but I wasn't completely, like, there gets a point where life has, like, stamped out your soul. Like, just,
Right.
Mine was getting there, but I still had some idea that, like, you know what? Maybe life will be okay and people aren't that bad, but people are terrible, so.
Yeah, it turns out you were pretty wrong. But no, I remember when we eventually, I think I showed you the ditch up by my house. You were on the other side of the school from the ditch. and you were like, wow, this is pretty awesome and wild and empty and untouched by it.
Yeah,
and we hung out there. And it was nothing compared to where you came from, where you had trees and big granite boulders and stuff like that you would play in your backyard before you came here, but it was the closest thing. And I think it was neat how we could run wild with our imaginations as young kids.
I want to point out, I think a spider was just on my head.
It's definitely possible.
No, and this really led me to believe that I was like, you know what? If I've learned anything from that experience, it's that one day there will come someone who will bless evangelicalism, and that's Trump.
Donald Trump.
And I knew. I was like, that's the guy we need.
That's our future.
So, no, yeah, they really, I think, man, I've lost a lot of brain cells. And it's not just like drugs or stuff. Like, I've just been punched in the face so many times. I want to bring up a fun subject for my wife. Hey, babe, my amateur fight, the ref lost count. He should have stopped it earlier. But he lost count, so he let me get up again. And I'm pretty sure I was already concussed, and then the guy hit me again. But Marcos, if you're listening out there, I got nothing against you, man. You are a good fighter. Like, he really is a nice guy. I think he's like a deacon at his church, but he wanted it more.
Yeah. You could tell when he did that kick to the nuts that he wanted it more.
That hurt so bad.
You could hear it.
Bad. It was a jumping teep, so he jumped into it, and I was like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
I was like, this
Why
has
did
gone
I sign
poorly.
up for this? So, question for Tyler and Seth.
Yeah.
Will you guys homeschool?
Yeah. As of now, I mean, I have a 17-month-old, so we got some time before we really need to make that decision. But as of now, yeah.
And what is the main reason that you're not afraid of the rough entry into society that Seth had in 4th grade?
I think homeschooling is like way different now than it was back then. Like there's a lot more resources, a lot more. I think everyone like that generation that was homeschooled is weird.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have many social interactions.
And I'd like to point this out too. There are people who have done homeschool and didn't have parents whose marriage wasn't necessarily good, don't have unhealthy things going on at home. And I think that plays into it because you can look at homeschool, but you can also look at the way they transitioned me in.
Totally.
What else is going on? Because if they see Christianity isn't working out for their parents and there's other issues, and then you're thrust into something and you're not really given a lot of ways to even think about or defend yourself or even speak, or just like, oh, you're on your own, and then don't even feel support at home. That compiles it versus if I had some other things that were a little healthier or different and even just a little prepared, it might have been different, but it literally was like going, here's our plan. Oh, now we're switching the plan. Oh, you should be married and do this. Oh, but that doesn't, look true for our marriage. Oh, well, this is going on, but we're Christians. There was a lot of factors that I feel like could have avoided. And I don't know, I'm kind of, if it was possible, and I'm still praying about it, I don't know, I guess this is maybe the libertarian idea, but it's like, I have no problem with someone disagreeing with me on it because it's not a hill I'm going to die on. But if we homeschooled our kids, I wouldn't have an issue with it. And I think there is a way we could do it right, because I already see Maverick has way better social skills than me. And I'm starting to wonder how much was, I know not everyone agrees with me on this, but I don't know how much was homeschool and how much really was just, I don't know, what was more the family. Am I being too, I'm trying to not be too loud and loud.
You're
Okay.
good. You're being fine.
But it's because Maverick already can interact with people and defend himself. Maverick's already like, you don't mess with my friend Danger.
Right.
He will smash someone, dude, for his friend. He's confident. He's like, no, Jesus died on a cross. And they're like, well, that's what your parents say. He goes, no, it's just true. And he doesn't care what they think. And he has a confidence. I'm like, man, I didn't have any of that. I remember sitting in that class going, this is weird. There are kids who just decide not to turn their homework for no reason. They're all cussing. They're all talking about things that are beyond me. And I'd like to point out I was drinking at that point too. So there was a lot of things going on that added to my anxiety. There was a lot.
What was your poison back then? I remember St. Ides or Idas.
It was, or peppermint
Avalanche?
schnapps.
Was Avalanche a
Dude,
drink?
it was whatever could
Aftershock,
be stolen.
that's what it was called.
It's what can I grab and make that 10-yard dash out?
Yeah.
And the question you had to ask was, can I outrun this shopkeeper? You had to look at him. You had to be like, do they look like they have good cardio? Because if you can beat it, man, Jeb was, oh, sorry, Jeb, you're on the podcast now. Jeb was just fearless about that. He didn't care. He was in another stage where he didn't transition well.
Right. Was he homeschooled?
He was homeschooled. And then he went to right before middle school. And then they took him out and homeschooled him a little again and then put him back in public school. Twice. And that's the problem. We changed the plan like twice.
Right.
And he was mad about the move. He was mad about living on Lenwood, the most glamorous area. And he was at Sparks High. He got in fights though. You remember.
Yeah.
He came home, broken nose because 3 guys jumped him. And all he had to do was walk away. And he's like, no, he just punched the guy in the face. You're like, man. Yeah, if you guys haven't met my brother, people think I'm nuts. I think Jeb gives me a run for my money. So he did the natural thing and went somewhere that would like curb his violence and bring him compassion. That was the Marines. But,
dude, it worked.
Jeb can get intense.
Yeah. He
can get intense. I'm like, dude. And he hates that I'm taller than him. He does. I'm sorry. He's so mad about that. But...
so are you guys saying, and I have no experience with this. I wasn't homeschooled, and the only person I knew that was homeschooled was you, Seth. I did end up, as I grew up, meeting other kids who were homeschooled, and some of them were normal, and some of them were weird, and some of them were that kind of strange thing that you worry about happening with homeschool kids, but, are you guys saying that it's not homeschool that does that to kids? It's just the situation they're in.
Yeah, it's probably home life bringing
life. Yeah,
what their parents are like.
So there's some homes that maybe aren't fit to be a school.
I don't know. I think they all are.
Yeah,
really. I think the motivation is the big thing. Like if your motivation is to keep your kids separate from the world, then you're doing the wrong thing. Because when they enter their world, then it's chaos, and they don't know how to interject with the world. But if you're doing it as a goal always to knowing that they're going to be adults and to bring them into the world, then you're always having them interact with the world. But just being able to everything being a lesson versus just this is just the way it is, or deal with it on your own.
Right.
I think if you have, I would agree to a point. I think if you have a home where it's abusive, or they're gonna do an even worse job,
right?
Like ignore it, because I knew a kid who they were like, oh, we're homeschooling, and they just didn't teach him anything, and then finally they found out.
Right.
But that's the only thing I'd say, because outside that, if you have a faithful person...
Mm-hmm. Faithful meaning what, though?
Faithful, I'd say, not only to Scripture, but in their life, how they're acting, their responsible, and then the education of, like what you said, what's their motivation, and are they going to be consistent sticking to it? Because that was the thing that frustrated me was, I felt like I was getting used to homeschool, and then they pulled me out. And Jeb felt like he was getting used to it, then they put him in public school, and then they pulled him out again. Mm. So you go, well, are you saying it didn't work? Are you saying you do this when it's convenient? Are you saying... And we also weren't told the reason for it.
Right. That's huge.
So I went, well, as opposed to them saying, hey, look, I don't expect you to be Billy Graham, and I'm building you up, I'm lifting you up, I'm teaching. We were just, and we never got answers either. Like when I asked theological questions, if I agreed with them, they answered me. If I didn't, it was almost like, how dare you? And I go, well, how am I going to learn critical thinking?
Right.
But no, I think motives, I think that's a huge one. Because I've met guys, dude, Lemaire is very, he was homeschooled. He's socially, like,
he's a
well
baller.
Adjusted. Right. He loves God. He loves it. He's a great husband. So yeah, and I don't know. It's hard for me to say because I feel like being such a young parent, like some of the stuff Tyler even brings up, I go, oh, I haven't even read on that. So that's why I feel hesitant sometimes to speak on stuff because I go, I don't feel comfortable until I've read up on it. Like if someone asked me about a certain confession, I wouldn't feel comfortable to talk about until I've read a few books, opposing views, arguments, and dissected it. Because I don't like it when people do that with Christianity who don't know anything about it. So I'm hesitant to go, like if someone said, well, what do you think about Tyler's view? I wouldn't want to speak on until I've read about it because I go, well, one, I don't want to do a disservice to his view. And two, I feel like I'd just be acting arrogant going, well, I didn't research it, but I know better than Tyler. I just feel like, I don't know. And homeschooling is something that the more I've read about, I go, I don't know. It sounds, I think I like that. It's just, there's ways I think it could be done right. I think it could be healthy. And, when I've pushed back with Tyler, even asking questions, he's had answers versus, well, I mean, you just have to have faith. I'm like, well, cool.
Well,
you just have to gospel it. Like,
it's funny how you say you're hesitant to talk about stuff. I feel like I'm the opposite. I want to talk about stuff, but I'm actively engaging in that discussion because I almost want to be proved wrong or I want to learn something. And I think people take that as aggression sometimes, and it's not meant that way. If you know me, I'm not very aggressive, so I don't understand why people always think I'm getting in their face.
You
but
are
either
a
way,
tyrant.
behind a keyboard, I will destroy you. Here's why I want to know this, though. Tyler is very pro homeschool on the internet.
That's right.
Tyler has released some
controversial statements, to say the least.
Very controversial
Goodness.
And polemic. Is that a word?
He's like,
I'm
if
thinking
you
the wrong
don't
word.
believe
That's a
this,
word.
you are hated, you uncircumcised Philistine.
Yeah. So
Cast
Tyler
out.
Tyler has done this, which I really appreciated. Tyler said, "Hey, here's my opinion, and I feel very strongly about it. I would like to discuss it," which is very different from some other people who say, "Here's my opinion, I'm right, and here's why you're a moron unless you decide to agree today," or some other people who have said, "I don't even care about this, and why can't everybody just be happy? Why does everybody have to be yelling? Why is there so many loud noises on the internet?" It's not that I appreciate the way you handled yourself on social media as much as I deeply appreciate your opinion because of the way you handle stuff on social media. Seth's got the drawing pad again, but I took away all the pencils. Oh, he found a pen.
I will. Life finds a way, Sean.
So here's where I stand.
So on a scale of 1 to Adele, how emotional are you feeling about this, Sean?
6. Oh, I heard a terrible Adele joke that I won't mention here. Here's how I feel about this. So, having thought about it, and here's my point. I've been challenged by your stuff because every now and then it's New Year's, right?
Yeah.
So I go back and I look at my 20 most controversial Facebook interactions, and your homeschool one was one of them. And I'm like, have I learned anything since this time? And usually the answer is no, because I'm usually correct. But in this case, I really started to actually think about it outside of my biases and just with like fresh eyes. And I'm a pro homeschool guy without even knowing it. Like, I don't know. I still don't know if I'm going to homeschool my son. Yeah. But I don't trust the government to do anything, let alone school my kids. Like, they obviously can't do a good job with most things. As a matter of fact, can anybody name something they've done well?
Genocide.
Brainwashing.
Oh, dear.
No, they did. All right. All jokes aside, because it is terrible, but the only thing I've seen the government efficient at is being inefficient. Wiping out native people. Let me see. Oppressing people who threaten their power. Let's see.
Collecting taxes.
Collecting taxes.
But they're not even that good at collecting taxes.
I think that's even planned out. Just to piss us off even more. They're super good at militarizing sections of society that shouldn't be. Oh, and fear. They're super great at fear.
Do you think, what does that stem from? I agree with Adam Carolla, which I often do, that the government's not this big greedy conspiracy thing that is secretly trying to experiment on people and murder people. They're just greedy and they don't know how to make more money. So they just do what's worked in the past, basically. And working for small government, I can see how that's very real. Do you think when the government sets out to do something, like on a Tuesday, they're like, all right, we're going to be the government today, the American government. Do you think there's anybody out there that still has like hope to like change things for the positive that's like actually employed by the government?
Yeah. Oh, employed by the okay. Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, I think they all do in their own way, but they're bringing in like their sinful nature. They're obviously like they're biased to like what they think is right. So there's no like they threw out like the objective standard whatsoever and just whatever they think is right, and they'll move it that direction.
Interesting.
Or try to move it that direction.
No.
You work for the government too, Seth. Technically.
Yeah, and so here's the thing.
I've given up.
No, I tend to agree more. I think there are guys who have even like, even some guys we'd be surprised by who maybe started out like, I'm going to do this. But what happens when you finally get past, you've walked past all the corpses and gone to the White House, this trail of bodies left behind.
Mm-hmm.
They go, okay, this isn't going to happen. I'm going to be a realist. So instead, it's, how do I just manage this place so it doesn't burn down? And I think they get the big book that shows, all right, here's all things going on. Here's what's actually happening. And they just go, okay, we're just going to manage it. Because I think they find out how much corporations are involved, how much they're actually just as bad as other places, and just decide, okay, I'm just going to manage it. Because here's the thing. I'm not even a huge fan of the dude, but Huckabee, and he backtracked on this like a badger on fire. Sorry to use such harsh language. Badger. But he said, I literally dropped out before I even lost hope of winning because I felt like I was selling my soul.
Yeah.
And I go, this is a hardcore Republican. And then Larry goes, oh no, this guy can do it. You can get up there. I go, you said you felt like you were selling your soul.
Yeah.
And it just, when
Candid
a guy
moment.
says that, it just gets to a point where, yeah, I think you get up there. I think there's lots of guys with great intentions, but intentions really don't mean crap and don't save you. And they don't run a country. I have intentions to be a great father and never snap at Maverick. Doesn't always happen. I have days I'm like, I'm going to sell you. I will sell you on the black market. And there are other days I really walk in the spirit, but there's sometimes like I say stuff and I go, why would I snap at him like that?
Yeah.
So intentions, when I hear, oh, well, they have good intentions, I'm like, dude, there are soldiers who were just following orders who had great intentions, and I've seen how that's worked out. And Magneto was right, by the way.
That's so true. Let me rephrase the question.
He was libertarian.
Yeah. So you guys are both, I would say, closest to what the libertarian persuasion is called. And granted, it's a spectrum.
Yeah, because Tyler's right.
But
he has good
you
views.
guys wouldn't. Would you guys outright say you're libertarians? Probably not, right?
No.
You just say
I would
you're
follow
kind
that.
of.
Yeah, I think the spectrum idea is really good to say.
Yeah.
Spectrum of libertarian.
So
I've said I'm libertarianish because I haven't found any party that I 100%, and I don't want to give my loyalty to anything. I like the idea of being independent because I also do believe from a theological standpoint, I don't think we're supposed to just come to earth and pick a side. I think we're supposed to show them a better side, a better view. Like we don't come down and take their story and Christianize it. We go, no, we have the greater story and it stands on its own merits. So there are things that line up, but when it does, I don't say, oh, the gospel lines up with necessarily libertarianism. I go, oh, this libertarian idea lines up with the gospel.
right.
I'm
I
a
go
Christian
with it.
before I'm a libertarian.
Mhm.
Yeah, which, folks,
Every time.
that's a distinction, by the way. Some of you out there, they go country, constitution, and God. And
Wrong.
I'm like, and everyone realizes we're not the only country with the constitution, right? I just want to point that out, that we think we're freaking cool for that. Like,
But it says it on the money. It says, "In God we trust."
with the other symbols on there that are all from the gospel.
The
You know the
pyramids.
gospel where they're like, and the pyramid with the eye.
The pyramid, that's another thing.
What do you
Tyler
think
and I
about that,
discussed
Tyler?
on
The
social
pyramid
media.
with the eye.
I don't know. I don't.
We already
Illuminati,
talked about
obviously.
this. So we already talked about this.
Stir in
So
the pot.
there's Incans making pyramids and Egyptians making pyramids, both cultures of which people have said, experts have said, some of these stone cutting things and the precision and accuracy is impossible for humans, especially with the tools that they had, but even impossible
Coincidence?
today.
I think not.
Exactly. Clearly, the Nephilim have something to do with it.
Oh man.
Question. All right. If you had Prime Nephilim versus Odin Force Thor, who would win?
Oh, Thor.
Yeah.
Thor.
Absolutely.
I'm not pitting a brother against a brother. It's pagan versus pagan.
Yeah,
Odin
Nephilim
Force,
are brothers.
dude, Odin Force Thor defeated Iron Man in 2 panels and made him cry like a little baby. I was going to say something else about baby. He destroyed him. And the Bible has stated Thor is better than Iron Man. Doesn't exist to kiss 5:12 right next to Fallopians 8:11.
Here's the thing, too. I believe that I know that this is a goofy thing that we talked about
Go on
Facebook, but in 2 Peter, he talks about like the
Second Peter.
end times with air quotes,
Yeah.
the near end times. He says it'll go back
How
to
we win. Yeah.
to the days right before Noah.
The victorious reign of the church.
I knew it. See, I was like, if I do it, if I set up the alley-oop, I know time will come.
On earth
Yeah, exactly.
before Christ returns.
Exactly. That's my point. He says essentially that we're going to go back to the times right before Noah where they discuss the Nephilim. I think that's talking about the Titans being released from Tartarus. Clearly. Right?
The word there is used, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's the only time that word's used.
Yeah. And it was specific to a point. There's other Greek words to use. He used Tartarus. What do you think about that? Thor could be one of those Titans. Lightning power.
I'd like to point
Titan.
out that Captain America has said Jesus is a savior
That's true.
on panel, and that when asked by one of the authors who wrote him, they said, is he conservative or is he they said neither. He's more libertarian. That was the author. So I just want to point that out, that the guy who symbolizes our country thinks you're all wrong, and he punched Hitler. So what have you guys done?
That takes me back to my question that I wanted to rephrase. You guys are
Tartarus
libertarians.
reminds me of tartar sauce. That's my
Tartar
answer.
sauce is for fisting.
Yeah.
So, is there any good regulation or good forms of socialism?
I want to hear Tyler. Well, no.
What do you
Should
mean by that? That's like 2 different questions.
It is 2 different questions. So,
Do you want to
let's
start off with regulation?
Is there any good forms of regulation?
all right. And
Yeah.
I am open to be, when the free market is being inhibited, I'm okay with regulation if it's like not really free market. Or, here's the thing. I'm not the type of guy who thinks free market will conquer everything. Like it'll take care of depravity, it'll fix. When there is blatant oppression, like our perfect example. I remember someone said, oh, well, the government shouldn't be involved. Those black people should boycott them. Well, they did. And then they got murdered. And like, well, they should have kept boycotting them all. They didn't have enough of the economic
During
share.
slavery, you mean?
Jim Crow, they didn't even have enough of the economic share to make a difference because they did boycott and the businesses said, good, we don't want you.
Right.
And if they went to court to sue them, they said, well, we're not going to defend a black guy.
Right.
When it's not truly free or when there's blatant oppression, like an evil in the land, like abortion.
Right.
All right, here, people, this is where, all right, we're going to get into deep water a little bit.
Let's talk about abortion, finally.
When
go.
it is a blatant evil, like, I mean, and I consider that a blatant evil, I'm okay with us stepping in and saying, no, we're not going to let the market decide. Like, this is done.
What about preservation of all life, though? Like, not preborn, like anyone.
From cradle to grave?
Yeah, everyone.
That-
So, like,
yeah.
preserving all life,
Yeah.
regulating the
Yep.
preserving of all life,
So,
which
like-
which the law of God actually like talks a lot
Anything
about.
that hinders the flourishing of life,
Yeah.
I'm okay with us regulating to prevent that because when I look at policy, I want to see what flourishes all life in every sphere of society. Because, yeah, I am cradle of grave. I care about the unborn, but I want to the end when they're dying, like older people, to have dignity and worth as image. Yeah, I completely agree. Completely.
And it's all stemmed out of the Imago Dei.
Yeah.
Every single bit of it.
We done. I can leave.
That's it. Drop the mic.
You know why? You know why I agree? Because he's right, people.
It's everyone though. So like you're talking about like people with mental disabilities. You're talking about people that are elderly, can't take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Which, by the way,
disabilities, all of it.
Can I bring this up? Isn't it interesting? We have so much pity the way people talk about people with Down syndrome, and yet I talk to them, and they're some of the most happy, joyful people, and they're like,
the ones that have made it to birth.
Yeah, important there.
Wow.
See, deep waters. See.
Yeah, that's true.
How many of them were killed in the womb, though?
Yeah,
that's definitely true.
They didn't meet our standard of what's viable.
What do you guys think about
Hitler's America?
What do you guys think about CRISPR?
Yes, I knew it would go here, and I didn't even have to try. I usually have to talk so much crap before we get here.
Tyler just took it there in one sentence.
Usually everyone I'm with is very civil and tame, and I am a sociopath. I don't care about this. I'm a pastor. I've accepted you all think I'm a bigot and idiot. I'm already okay with that.
So what about genetic editing? Like you can prevent... I don't know if you can prevent...
Can you walk that? Yeah, maybe I'm not... What do you mean, genetic
editing? There's technology called CRISPR, which is a pretty poor name for a kid who's developing in the womb. But you can go in and turn, I think it's like little DNA switches on and off, or from an A to an F, or however DNA works. I don't know. But I know that the implication is that you can do some things while either before or while... Yeah, that's nitrogen, so it's just going to pour out, just so you know. just a little heads up. You can prevent all of those things from happening. So, and I don't really know how it works, but essentially, like, you do a scan and you find out, oh, this child in utero is going to have Down syndrome because of this genetic markup or chromosomal markup or whatever. They can go and change that using science.
Tyler, what do you think about the idea some people bring up of... How did they put it? They say it as mitigating some of the effects of the fall. Like they say with medicine, one of the effects of fall is disease and pain, and with medicine we're pushing back against that a little bit. Does this fall in that category, or is this playing God?
I don't know. I actually...
Because I haven't done research on it.
I haven't heard of this. Really,
is it real or are you lying?
No, this is a real. I promise.
Is this like a pseudoscience, or this is actually happening?
No, it's a real thing, and it's.
I don't know.
I mean, it's pretty new.
From my experience, people with like raising kids with like mental disabilities have like seen God do drastic things in their lives too.
Absolutely.
So, like, are you?
Oh man,
are you doing something to prevent what God has brought, like, to nature? Like, has God like made a mistake at that point? Because at that point now you're like, a little bit playing with God, but at the same time I would say, like, if you have cancer, you should try to cure it.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, and that's, so can you do preventative care in the womb? Like,
that's the defense, is that there's a higher risk at birth rates for a lot of these things.
If it's going to help,
so would you change it?
So this is hard.
Pro-life to change a gene.
If it's going to help with flourishing of life and they can scientifically prove it's a defect, like it's something with the cells breaking down or something, I would hear them out. But I want to know the motive of the parents. Because sometimes it might be, well, I don't want to suffer. Versus if you have a parent who says, I've already had 2 kids who have this. They didn't even live this long. They didn't even make it to 5. Maybe this one can still live. And I'd hear them out, because I think I'm so cynical with America, and this is bad because I'm judging
you're
hard.
Right about that.
But with America, I have this natural assumption. I go, oh, great. Where are you running from?
Yeah, you're being lazy.
Let me guess. You want to be rich? You want to be wealthy? I'd want to see. I didn't even know that was possible.
But what about this?
I didn't know that's
how are you going to judge the motives of a parent's heart?
Guns.
Like, hold it to their head. Like the game with Michael Douglas. You put them through that, and then
man is the deadliest animal.
No. This question's for Tyler. Say there's a disease
that makes you like cocaine.
That limits your life, not your life length, but maybe your quality of life. Is it pro-life to flip a switch in the DNA using some kind of magic CRISPR machine so that the child no longer has that disease and has what we would call a higher quality of life?
I don't know what to do with that. I think any life, because I think right now the option is abortive. Mm-hmm. So anything that's going to prevent aborting a baby is probably good. But again,
that's a good point.
But again, I don't know like the research on this or risks or anything.
What's your source, Moss?
We don't.
Where's your stats?
We don't have sources on this show.
The stats are made up.
Is it Infowars?
Opinions don't matter.
We just talk about
Hillary
that is
with
a
her
low blow.
demon eyes.
That is a low
She's
blow.
a shark person.
That guy.
He's all buy my
insane.
protein drink.
Dude, that guy is literally
Sells
insane.
he's all, this protein drink has anti-alien contingents. It helps you prevent being liberal and gay. You're not going to find a better one on the market. And Hillary with her demon eyes is biting Muslims' armpits. And you're like, what?
That guy literally, that's going to be the start of our show, by the way. That guy is no.
Have you seen him interviewed?
Yeah.
Megyn Kelly, who is not a liberal, by the way, literally has second interviewing him where she looked like she was going to hold her head and have an aneurysm. She's like, what are you saying? Megyn Kelly's like, you're an idiot. What? Because he was saying stuff and she goes, and how can you back this up? He goes, well, I mean, the stuff's out there.
Yeah.
What?
Dude, and if he...
And this is the guy who has brain damage. I don't agree with... I have brain damage and I don't agree with him.
Whether that guy believes what he's selling or not, he's wealthy from it. Can you believe that?
Dude, he is rich.
Just having a crazy opinion can make you rich. How cool is that?
Because you take the human heart and you say, hey, you know, all your depraved, selfish thoughts, yeah, they aren't wrong. They're good. In fact, you should take them further.
That's true. I know a lot of people that
That's how Trump got elected.
That sell you things. Exactly. There's people that manipulate your emotions, and you guys, I'm being serious.
I know. It's just he's going places that I don't even have to direct him. I have to usually guide people. Tyler's like, I don't know, maybe you're a murderer. Go ahead. You're bearing your heart. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying that, like, there are people, I'm sure you guys have met them. I've certainly met them. I can think of 10 right now that are so good at manipulating and so good at selling something that they're destined to make a ton of money somehow.
Oh, they can.
As soon as they find their format, they're going to be wealthy.
We need to, all right. Here's the thing. And I know not everyone agrees with me. The reason I look at the history of America is not because of some white guilt. It's because I want to have an actual realistic picture of where we've come from and look at and read it and not have some false idealized, idolatrous view of us being perfect and without sin and just leading people perfectly. I genuinely want to know, okay, what's happened? And if you look at history, you have had guys who weren't even necessarily educated, weren't holy, didn't even necessarily have integrity, but they could look at pissed off, depraved humans and guide them to do the most terrible, awful, evil, unbiblical things you could imagine. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to diminish how much the Spirit can change or the dignity and worth, but I also am not going to diminish how freaking evil people can be. And when you have a guy who's a good speaker and talks to someone who's already pissed, already mad, and just speaks in, my brother, it was so easy for guys to come along and tell him, oh, you don't have a lot of money, you're pissed off, it's because of them. And he was waiting. He was like a match ready to be lit. And Trump, and here's the thing, this is why we need to see history and research and pray and think. Trump knew, and he zeroed in on these people who were mad. And I'm not saying right or wrong, but their perception was no one gives a crap, which to be fair, politicians, they're not like, oh, the poor people, I'm going to go live in their trailer with them. They're pissed. And he looked at me, he's like, I'm mad too. And you should do that. And instead of saying, hey, you know, Jesus is going to fix this. Yeah. He'll be victorious. He went, you should take your anger even further. Because here's the thing. If I, as a pastor, rebuke a guy for having an affair, it's usually unpopular. He goes, well, I feel this. But if a guy comes along and goes, no, you need to have even more of an affair. You're not taking it far enough. It's so easy, that part of your spirit that goes, yes. Because I think about, here, everyone will enjoy this part. I think about that the first sin, I don't always look at Adam. I think of Satan. The idea that he's like, I will overthrow you. I will sit on the throne. I think there really is an enticing part to our depraved heart to say, what if you could be God? So instead of these people waiting and suffering, like we've told many cultures to do, be patient, which was garbage, and we saw how that turned out. It's be even angrier. Actually, let your hate guide you. Let it actually like be your strength. It's not just be angry. It's, no, that's actually your strength. Be pissed off. And they voted, and we got what I expected.
Yeah.
We got a guy. And I know from all our comments and emails, everyone at Living Stones will agree with me. No one's going to be mad at me for this later. Because every sermon Harvey's preached, everyone's like, you're right, man. Let's be sensible about this. And no one criticized. I can't even say it. No one criticized him. But that, like, sponsored by Kirk Cameron. Saving Christmas.
Tyler was going to say something.
Saving Christmas, part 3.
Oh, Saving Christmas.
But really, like, so, like, with our current administration, Christians need to be thinking, like, is there a time where, as Christians, are we ready to hide Muslims from our government?
Like harbor them?
Like harbor them. Like, no, there's no one hiding in my house.
Right.
And it's people that are, like, we're told to, like, right now hate, and they have done so much bad things to us.
All refugees, for that matter, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But the church, as of now, is, like, almost turning against that because it sounds good.
My Opa did that. Just want to point out how my family line isn't full of just perverts and criminals. We have a few guys. Did I mention he's a spy? Does that redeem my family? Yeah. I feel like my dad and I dragged down our legacy. I feel like my Opa's like, surely my descendants will love God and do things. And I'm like, I'd rather hit people with a bat. My dad's like, I'd rather just ignore my kids. He did, though. He loved people.
As
Nita was right.
Christians who trend towards libertarianism, let me ask you if you're okay with this manner of regulation.
Here it comes, Tyler.
Once I went to Aruba, the island Aruba.
I didn't think you were going to go this direction.
The magical island of Aruba. Okay. No, I've been there.
Yeah.
I'm really proud that I went there. I think I had just turned 16 or 17.
Yeah.
And the drinking age was 16.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh man, I can drink all I want. And I remember I sat down at a bar and I didn't know what I was doing because I'd never sat down at a bar before. And I was like, I would like 1 bourbon, 1 scotch, and 1 beer, please. And that was all I remember from that night. Anyways, one thing why. I do remember, Aruba is actually, I believe, a colony or part of the Dutch
It's either
Empire.
British or Dutch.
It's Dutch, but I don't know if it's like a colony or what they consider. Either way.
It's hard. All right. And people out there, by the way, it's not the country of Holland. Netherlands is the country. There's North and South Holland, and we have different areas. But to be fair,
Netherlands is a funny name.
To be fair, the tourist website still says Holland.com. We did that mainly for you guys. I say you guys because I don't trust Americans. But I think it is a colony. Is it a colony or a commonwealth? What's the difference?
I don't know.
You didn't research this.
I didn't research it.
To answer your question, though, I'm okay with that. Like, so that would say, like, so drunkenness is a sin, but not necessarily needs to be regulated by the government.
Yes,
Which is why I voted.
Oh, that wasn't my question.
But I thought this was.
But no, go on, please go on.
He was going to ask about Teletubbies.
Which is why I voted for, like, the legalization of marijuana, because though we can stand and call it sinful to partake, the government doesn't need to regulate what we do.
Interesting. So at the risk...
Especially with minor vices. I don't think that... Anyway.
At the risk of people being allowed
So drunkenness is a sin, but not to be regulated by the government.
I really like that opinion.
So we can call that out. So, like, if anything, it's a way for the church to actually stay, like, you have that freedom as an American, but as a Christian, we're calling you to live something bigger.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And we don't have to legislate that.
No, we don't
Right?
need to.
This is why I like Anthony Bradley, because some of what Tyler's saying is no joke. Anthony Bradley, remember he had that whole article. He goes, and his response to Piper, he goes, "Why you don't have to vote and it's okay."
Mm-hmm.
And they had another article. He goes, "Why managing the minor vices like people are children is terrible." Because he compared it to, it was almost like he goes, "You're taking the government, the abusive older brother, to manage the vices of younger children." He goes, which it's not even their role. And he had this whole thing. And the comments section, I loved it. I was savoring it, tasting it. Because Anthony Bradley, the one thing I like, I don't always agree with him, but he owes no allegiance to anyone. He does not care.
Yeah.
He goes, and he goes, "I don't owe the Republicans or Democrats a dang thing." And I was like, yes.
He is
And
great.
I lifted weights and did kickboxing and pulled a gun to defend my weed crops. That's what I did.
Truly, the best part of the internet is the comments, right?
You've
Do you remember?
read some stuff you've agreed with him, though.
Oh, Anthony Bradley, I'm 100% behind him.
And
I wish
he's
he would
made
run for
people
president.
mad.
Sponsored by Anthony Bradley.
He was the one who said, he's like, actually, he goes, "You don't have to vote and that's okay. And if they try to guilt you," he goes, "just talk to them about how they're heretics." I was like, what? Because he's like, what was it? He said, "I won't bow down to their flag." He got so much anger at him because Piper had invited him to speak.
Yeah.
And he said this a week later because he will everyone will be like, "Dude, this is our favorite book." He goes, "Don't care for it." Anyway, all right.
Nobody's safe.
Sponsored by Anthony Bradley.
Here was my
PhD.
question about the Aruba. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I think I just remember that very fondly. I literally went to a pirate ship and swung
Yeah,
swinged
Swats.
of a rope swing tied to the
Shark
mast
box.
into the water.
Yeah.
There's no more primal state than
Were
that.
you in God's hands?
I was totally in God's hands. I went surfing the other day. by the
Straight
way.
edge band idea. X American History X.
Great idea. Oh, here's my question. So I went to several places. I went to, I think, a fast food restaurant, a Dutch fast food restaurant.
Don't you
I went to a casino. I'm not talking about mayonnaise. I went to a casino. I went to my own hotel. I went to several bars. I went to a bunch of different places. Every single place had the exact same public restroom. I'm not saying same layout, same pattern on the stalls, same everything. And each stall was floor to ceiling. There was a fan in each stall, and the door overlapped with the stall so that there was no awkward line of sight where you can make eye contact with somebody while you're pooping.
just staring
And
at him?
I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I assumed back then, I was young, that this was a government regulated, socialized public bathroom. And I am so okay with that. I am so on board with that. Do you guys think that would disrupt the free market?
So, hold on. I need to get my notepad because that's what efficient podcast. Oh, by the way, my notepad has no notes. It's me writing about you viewers and how I despise you. So what was the socialized part? Can you walk me through it? What was socialized?
I believe.
Where'd the money come from? Was it tax? I just need no details.
Yes.
I believe every business that is required to have a public restroom has to meet these requirements for the restroom. And that includes the layout. That includes the actual materials used.
Okay.
The way the sinks work, paper towels, tri-fold, double fold, blow dryer. They didn't use any of the drying things, the blow dryer things that you dry your hands with. It was all paper towels. I believe that's mandated by the government. Maybe if a listener knows more about this, they can let us know. But for the sake of argument, let's say that there was a bill introduced where they said every public restroom has to be this clean, has to use this materials, has to have the door overlap so there's no awkward gap, and has to have floor to ceiling and a fan for every stall.
What's the punishment if you don't? Where's the money come from? I just want to know.
You don't get the health inspector doesn't approve your bill
you
or
don't
something
get
like that.
to be open for business.
Yeah, you don't get to operate.
Yeah, no, thank you.
You think that's too much? That's overstepping?
Because I feel like there is, all right, as opposed to internet, you can choose what bathroom you go to.
Totally.
Here's the thing. All right, here's my problem. I feel like we go, but then this might happen or this might happen. New Testament, they were like, wow, I lived more than 30 years. And that was good enough for them. Yet we're like, oh my gosh, if this happens, we might get sick. I've seen regulation. All right, let me put it this way. Flint, Michigan.
Yes.
Had government regulation, all stuff, and there still was like blatant corruption. And I'm not saying it was terrible what happened to kids, but government regulation doesn't ensure that everything's going to go okay. I don't know. I feel like that I could just go, I'm not going to go to that bathroom.
Yeah, what we have like a little bit of a test of it now. Like, who wants to stop at a public restroom, rest stop? Who wants to stop at a government bathroom already? Like, they're scary. Like, no one wants to stop at rest stops. Am
I being communist, Tyler? Am I not listening to his point?
No, I hear what you guys are saying, and this is why I can't get on board with the libertarianism. Because it was like paradise using these bathroom stalls. It was amazing. It was like, I was like, wow, I really feel like the citizens of this great...
is benefiting from the bathroom.
Yes.
But where did the money come from to make sure it happens?
I have no idea. I assume high taxes.
Because was it paradise for someone who couldn't afford to do that?
I assume it's high taxes. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of businesses that weren't able to operate because they couldn't do the bathroom.
Because here's the thing. Every weekend, I dress up in a suit and murder people who break the law. Now, we all know this. I mean, it's just a fact. No, because here's the issue I have. And once again, you're bringing up this is so hard because I haven't researched saying that this is killing me.
That's what I do.
There's always a cost. Whenever someone says like, hey, we're going to give this for free, I go, well, where's it coming from? They go, well, it'll come from here. And I always think of the person who couldn't afford it or couldn't meet the standard who goes, dude, like, all right, perfect example. You remember your first couple of years of marriage. Mm-hmm. You have some guy starting a business who just is trying, and then you install this thing and says, you have to have these type of bathrooms. And he's like, I can't afford that. They go, well, that's tough. And his business collapses. And you go, well, it's not a big deal. But for him, that's his whole life. He put his savings. And now you're affecting his kids, his wife, everything. And I get to the point also, the question you're bringing up, I go, well, it's bathrooms. Like, should it be that regulated when I can go into the forest and just, I don't know.
What I'm saying is, couldn't you say the same thing about the things you are for regulating?
Like black people having rights?
Such as pro-life. Or black people having rights. Yeah. You could say, honestly, that any government regulation could potentially get in the way of somebody's livelihood. Any at all. Even if it's something that we totally agree with, right? I want to hear Tyler's opinion on this, actually.
I have so many. Go ahead, Tyler, because I have like 20 thoughts.
Really. I don't understand.
He's asking you, is pooping sinful? We know it is.
Yeah,
we all know it's
the result of the fall.
If you care about pro-life, wouldn't you care about nice bathrooms? That's my question. Why not?
Why not TVs in bathrooms?
Exactly.
Why not softer toilet? Because you're pooping. It's just poop.
But free market.
You're
says,
poop,
like,
Sean.
If you have a clean bathroom, people want to use your establishment more, right? Like that's a perk.
Suppose.
That's a perk
to
using their business. So if you have a nasty bathroom, no, I'm not going to go to that place.
How many? Do you guys go to places with nasty bathrooms?
No.
I totally do.
I would say yeah.
That's because you are a drag of society.
I totally do. And every time I go to that bathroom, I'm like, man, I wish I was in Aruba right now. Okay. And here's where I'm not, I think I'm further from libertarianism than you guys.
You are an anarchist. You are you make me look like Rush Limbaugh with how anti-establishment you are.
I am anti-establishment, but I am for good regulation like nice bathrooms or things like that. But I am 100% against stupid, not even regulation, but laws like
speed limits.
Speed limits are dumb, especially like like
That's why millions die on the Autobahn, right? Because speed limits work.
right, exactly.
Because millions die on there. Oh wait,
They don't.
Or what about
cubic crip, homie.
so like you have a car that breaks down, and you can't afford a new car, so you're gonna let that car, you're gonna fix that car up eventually, but it takes you 6 months. But you can't park it on the street if it's not registered.
Right.
But you talk to all your neighbors. Nobody cares if you're parking an unregistered car on the corner. You live in a cul-de-sac, let's say, and nobody cares except the police. That's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. There's nothing happening by ticketing people or finding people with unregistered cars on the street, especially when their neighbors don't care. Driving an unregistered car is a whole different thing, but parking an unregistered car, I would abolish that immediately if I was president or mayor or whatever.
I think you have to set a standard of, okay, what is the proper place of government? Because when I look at it, I go, okay, you can look at verses people bring up, it's a sword or it's this or that, but you have to do a standard. Because if you go by the government's supposed to be, well, I don't like this, so it can't do that. I do like this, so it can do that.
Right. It's all personal opinion versus.
I think you have to have a biblical standard
objective.
of, okay, where is the line?
You guys are talking like theonomists.
Yeah, and it really is like you have to have an idea of like, what are we going to do? Because a lot of mine, and I'll admit this, a lot of mine is based on the idea of, okay, I ask a few questions. I go, what's going to help human life flourish? What is controlling the liberty of a human being to defy or obey God? I ask questions, but it's because I've read through and said, okay, I've defined what I feel is like a standard biblically, versus I feel like a lot of people go by, well, I don't like this, so that's okay. I do like this, so that's not okay. And you have to have an idea. And this is the thing I've asked people so many times, and people school me on this. I'm not an educated guy. I'm very ignorant, like education-wise on this. I would just respect it so much more if a Christian in America, when they gave a political opinion, any opinion, said they quoted a confession or church history or scripture or a theologian, and they had a foundation versus, well, we can't let them in because this will happen. And they're going by pragmatics. If they had some foundation where even if the guy is, I'm not Presbyterian, but if he's PCA and he can give a biblical foundation, I would respect it so much as I go, okay, he searched through scriptures. He looked at the confessions. He looked at Justin Martyr, Augustine. He said, what do they say versus, well, we can't do this because, we can't let the liberals win.
America.
Yeah, saying these platitudes and diatribes versus when I bring up the idea of helping refugees or Muslims, I look at, what does scripture say? All right, I go there. What has God called me to? Okay, love God first and love my neighbor. And I have a foundation versus, well, my party says to do this and I have to defend them at all costs. And that's all I'm asking people to do, is not to agree with me, but to change what their foundation is, that we're supposed to be providing a better story, and we haven't. We provide this bastardized, pathetic, Christianized version of their politics. Yeah. And then they go, this is lacking. I go, cause it is, cause you're all idolaters and it's BS. It's heresy. So much crap of this Joel Osteen. Hey, it's the American dream, but we sprinkled Christ on it. I would punch that guy in the eye. I'm sorry. And I would drop him. My right hook, dude. I guarantee that guy's
taken
like
down many theologians. Let's just put it that way.
All right, let's take it back a few notches because Seth got a little antsy, folks.
I can see.
I got bills to pay, people. I got mortgage. Says Osteen. I got mortgage, folks. Sponsored by
Joel Osteen. Osteen.
Sponsored by Osteen. Believe what you believe, because he doesn't open the Bible. So
okay. I want to talk about
pastor.
The elephant in the room.
Is it Sean's diabetes?
It's my pending diabetes, especially after these holidays. I had a lot of pie.
Go on,
Tyler. Pie or cake?
You guys rip on cake way too much. I'm a pie fan, but like you don't need to bash on cake so much, guys.
How does theonomy lead to your pro cake position? Actually, can we talk about theonomy? How are you guys doing on time?
Well, question, because I want to be fair here, and it's not just because I'm 100% biased towards Tyler's views. It's so bad. I'm so biased towards this perspective. Okay.
The pie? Yeah.
When you say theonomy,
oh yeah,
can you define the terms and say what type of pie? Because the Bible clearly allows for the liberty of cake, but loves pie.
Yes. Can I actually start by defining how
You've
see
had
theonomy?
All right, hey, people, I just want to bring this up. So Facebook, if you look at Sean's profile, he doesn't just comment once. When he gets in debate with people and I turn off notifications and I say, hey, it's not worth arguing about. I mean, after all, I need to back away. I mean, this is emotionally exhausting. I will get 20 more vibrations from my phone because Sean Moss commented. Sean Moss replied to his own comment. Sean Moss replied to his own comment. And I look and it's 5 pages of Sean being like, here's the gist of it. He can't let go. And we'll have this defiance that rivals William Wallace on a topic that he will admit he doesn't even care that much about. And I'm prepping a sermon reading this going, where does this fire come from, Sean? This anger.
It just comes every now and then.
Is it the Irish? You're Swedish. Why are you so angry about this?
I'm part everything.
I'm going to draw more inappropriate
I think
pictures.
It's the Mexican in me. So
wait.
So from what I've been, so what I understand is I come from I feel like less robust theologically group of Christians who believe that the Bible literally speaks of the end times getting worse and worse and worse until Jesus comes back.
Here we go.
Until Jesus comes back, settles the score, slays all the non-believers, and blood rises to 6 inches deep across the planet, and all kinds of stuff happens. And somebody who's has an optimistic view, often a postmillennial person, or maybe an amillennial person, would say that no, actually everything's getting better. The gospel is going to transform the planet.
As it is already doing.
And it's going to continue to the point where when Jesus comes back, there's only like 7 or 8 people that he has to slay and put into the lake of fire. And that theonomy can either be the means to achieve it or is the result of achieving that.
Can I ask Tyler a question because people don't hear me talk enough? Tyler, the main issue. Sean, are you going to poop? Yeah. Go ahead. All right, go ahead. All right, Tyler, here's the main issue people bring up. And I've heard like a dozen times easily. And people just say, Sean's in the bathroom right now. I don't want to embarrass him. Use your imagination. They say, what about suffering? Isn't that what moves the church forward?
Yeah.
You don't care about suffering. And here's the thing.
Absolutely, it does.
I don't want to dismiss people because we're not talking about just a rapture, dispensational view. Even Amil goes, hey, I see suffering. I see this. They look at the world. They go, how can you have this? What do you think about the idea of suffering? Like, what's your challenge to that when they say, well, Tyler, what about suffering? It seems like that's the way church moves forward. What do you think about that? It
is like the way that the church moves forward, but also you're when you're saying that we're supposed to suffer more, you're telling the persecuted church that it's going to get worse. And places around the world, you're trying to tell them it's going to get worse when they're looking around and saying how possibly could it get worse than what we're already dealing with now. And so I think that's a little bit of us as Americans saying like, oh, it'll get worse for us. But other places in the world are going to be like, are you kidding me?
How could it get worse?
How could it get worse? Are you joking? Like, it can only get better from where we're at right now.
Will there still be, let me ask you this, because this is an important one. They say when it is in this amazing like time, this golden age, is there still suffering? Any type of suffering. Because they feel like the question is, they go, dude, there's suffering till the end. Like, that's how we do it, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's their contention. Mill would have no problem with the rapture. They'd have no problem with you saying they'd have no problem saying there's no rapture.
Right. Oh, right, yeah.
Mill would have no problem with saying he's reigning. But they'd say, how is there's this, this huge reign with no suffering? Because isn't that the marker of the church, Tyler? Why do you hate Trump? Why is Clinton the one who will bring balance?
Yeah, I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what to do with the verse that says that the present evil age. Is that always going to be the church
You're
age?
supposed to be a jerk about this. Why are you
I don't know
being
what to do with
civil?
that. I'm sorry. That's like a real truth there.
I want to point out I drew a gun shark, which if you think of it, Second Amendment guns, but the shark, the environmental people will be mad. I'm so edgy.
It also looks like the pagan Maui hook.
It kind of does.
From Moana, from the Disney movie Moana.
Yeah.
Have you ever wondered what paganism looks like?
Moana.
I have to preach in a few days, and Tyler just called me out. I don't know what to do. Oh, he needs 9. What if I made his teeth 9 millimeters?
Okay.
Hey,
Genius.
wait, hold on. From Oakland to Sacktown, as St. Paul said.
The Bay Area.
To back down. And isn't that true? Isn't that true, Barry?
Doesn't Tupac bring up Rosecrans in that?
He brings up that.
The only time Rosecrans.
He also brings up something that Acts clearly talks about. He says, Inglewood, always up to no good, depravity.
That is true.
So, dude, I felt it was good when Shay was on here. We brought Tribe versus Wu-Tang. And then, Goody Mob. All right, here's a song you might know.
I listened to Goody Mob after
They
that.
have a song. It's Who's Looking in My Window?
Right, yeah.
Wow! Ain't nobody now. So the idea is some guy's peeking in your window. 9 millimeter, bam! Ain't no one now. You know why? Because you have extinguished this image. You've destroyed him. No, that's not what they were saying. They were saying they're in Compton. Some guy looks in the window. They shoot him in the face.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Kirk Cameron and Franklin Graham for the upcoming Bring Your Gun to School Day at Liberty U.
Oh, wow.
If you do not have a gun, you will not make it through a metal detector. Bring your gun to school day, because that's what God did. It was always kill everyone who opposes you.
Tyler.
I'm drying guns in my shark mouth.
Tyler, I want to clarify. Actually, I want to ask you a different question. So, you would say that theonomy is that a theonomic system could potentially replace.
Stop screwing this up, Sean. He's our one guest.
What we call our current government and church right now.
Yeah.
Correct?
As not a means to bring in the millennial kingdom, but as a result of.
Why is that significant?
Because I'm not trying to do like a haiku. Haiku is not the right coup takeover of Christianity.
Haiku. No, I get it. Haiku,
Poetry,
2 different words.
And Christianity.
Isn't it hard to concentrate when Seth draws stuff?
Over here.
Look, I'm trying to be
now somebody gets it. He didn't draw when Shay was here.
Oh, really?
Because I didn't want him to
No
judge me.
Because I hit the pencils.
The
He's older than
is
me.
that a theonomic system isn't going to bring in the millennial kingdom because only conversion can really do that. So my view would be that amounts of people are going to come to Jesus and they're going to look around and say like, whoa, our government should reflect the law of God. And now we have the voters to do it, but we have the people in power to actually do it, and the people back it.
And we clearly should still be praying for people to be healed because that's still alive and the Spirit's still working. Because that didn't cease.
You know what's strange is...
I'm trying to bait Tyler so hard because...
No, Tyler's not a cessationist.
No.
I know, and I want him... Because
you
know
want
what?
him to go off on it.
People, I want to bring this up.
But it also says that preaching is going to cease too. So should we stop preaching?
That's a
Since
good
people
point.
have abused that gift as well.
Here's the argument I don't
our
like.
buddy
They go, well, when you do this, it doesn't look like Paul. I go, my evangelism doesn't look like Paul. My preaching doesn't look like
Right.
Paul. Does that all stop?
Right.
No. Seth is right. Boom. And you know what? We're going to see glory.
So,
Glory!
to clarify,
I'm
there
constipated.
are people out there. This is the strange thing. Would you say, honestly,
Oh, cool.
theonomists,
Yeah.
people who believe in the law of God being, I guess, the state,
That Jewish
mandate?
people aren't the real gods. People.
are usually people who are postmillennial
Yeah.
folks. Actually, can we define postmillennial,
Postmillenialism?
premillennial,
Oh, did
and
we even?
amillennial?
Yeah, I don't even think we gave a
probably
definition.
should.
We're just throwing out words out
So-
I have
I-
atheist friends who listen to this. They're like, "Why isn't Seth talking about fighting?"
I am a premillennial person,
and you're wrong.
which
That's
means
okay.
so I will define it the best I
Historical.
can. I'm a
You're
historical
not a
premillennial.
dispy, right?
So a dispensationalist premillennial believes that God acts upon people differently in different times. I think.
I don't even know. Seth
Something
doesn't have
similar
enough
to that.
paper to draw that chart.
Yeah.
Could I-
so
could I-
it's crazy.
could I
so you
Bring
can-
up something.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Because I know you're going anyway. Because you enable our friendship. Because I'm a terrible. Here's my issue. So everyone's like, here, I won't say his name. It rhymes with mump. He says, I'm going to do this in Israel. I see in the New Testament, Paul goes, here's true Israel. And here's the people who think they are because their heritage. I go, oh,
Yes,
wait, are there
yes.
2 or 3 different Israels?
How many?
Yes.
Then I see in the Old Testament, Israel is seen as the vineyard, but then in the New Testament, Jesus goes, I'm the vine. And that to me shows me a movement from him saying, and it's not replacement, by the way. Replacement theology to me is a caricature. I see it as,
heresy. if you ask me.
Mudslinging, really.
Yeah.
yeah, I see it as instead of this earthly Jerusalem, Jesus is going, no. I reign from this heavenly place. I'm reigning. This is where it is.
Yeah.
And we're not replacing. It's this fulfillment. I've actually fulfilled
Yeah.
promises. And this is a true Israel.
Yeah.
So when people go, no, I'm still fixated on the earthly. He goes, the earthly. Oh, the ones who deny me, who don't believe in me. And we're so fixated on this earthly place. And my question is this, even if you don't acknowledge any of that theology or the theologians who agree with me, my question is this, even if you think God says, actually, this is a question for Sean. I'm in the driver's seat. Even if you think Jerusalem is where it's at, and that's like this capital, we've seen in scripture, it's not just about ending where God wants us to, but how he wants us to. Because David could have looked at King Saul and said, well, I'm supposed to be king anyway, so I can murder him. Ends justify the means. No, it wasn't just that David ended up king, but he was king how God wanted him to. So I have to ask, even with Trump, when he says Jerusalem is this capital, is it even the way God wants it to when you do that? Is there any reconciliation with the Palestinians? Is there any reconciliation with the Palestinian Christians? Because it's not just ending there, but how God wants us to end there. Because I feel like I can argue against this, not just from a dispensational view, but from another view of looking, going, Jesus seems to transition this earthly Jerusalem to this holy, no, I reign from my kingdom. That's where we reign from, not this earthly, ethnic Israel. And he seems to go, here's the true Israel, not just this ethnic Israel. And it's not a replacement.
No.
I see him fulfilling promises and us going in where the true Israel one day is Gentiles and Jews together in this new heaven, new earth.
Yeah. God's people.
God's people.
Yeah.
And I go, and I just have so many problems when people go, and you're not saying this is more my family, but they go, well, that's God's people. I go, God's people deny him? Because I see God's people as people who believe. And I'm not saying it's because I hate Jews. Everyone goes, well, you're anti-Semitic. That's such a caricature.
Right.
And being historical, I know you sidestep some of these things, but it's like, do you see at least the problems I run into when I read and go, I see Jesus changing the game, going, hey, it's not just your bloodline. And yet I get called a heretic when I say stuff. I get called anti-Semitic. I get called liberal just because, I think people should do heroin and I murder people on the weekends dressed as a bat. It's like, it's stupid. But I don't know. What do you think about some of these thoughts?
Yeah, but we would say that the Israel does get saved with the rest of the world.
Yeah. It's
They're included.
But we would just define who's Israel.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that
I do think Israel gets saved. I just
Yeah.
want to define who's Israel.
Yeah.
as a premillennialist, as a historical premillennialist, well, let me clarify that.
Is Nickelback a good band?
Dispensational premillennialists would say yes.
That Nickelback's a good band?
They would say that. They would say that.
There you go.
They would say, for our current dispensation, that Nickelback is appropriate for humanity. I disagree with that, which is why I can never call myself that. But here's
I
my
have
point.
loved you since the day we've met.
The difference would be both historical dispensationalists, dispensational premillennialists and historical premillennialists believe that there's something in Revelation and alluded to in Daniel that talk about this 1,000 years of peace. We both believe that Jesus Christ returns to the earth to bring in that period of 1,000 years of peace. Now, the dispensationalists would say that's because God at different times acts upon man in different ways, different dispensations, they would say. Kirk, Cameron, we know you're listening. If you want to weigh in on this, you can.
You've raptured me.
I think he's Postmill now.
He's changed.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Look at that saving Christmas.
He's not pre-mill, though. He's not pre-mill. Maybe he's A, but he is not pre-mill.
His movies would change if he was.
Honestly, have you seen his newer documentary on Netflix, Monumental?
He has a documentary on Netflix?
No, it's actually decent, guys.
Because I was watching Dave Chappelle.
It's still a dispensational.
I don't know. It sounds pretty post-mill.
I'm blogging about this.
Historically, I believe that, and I think we say it's a historical perspective because we just say the Bible literally speaks of this, and we believe it's being literal when it talks about Jesus coming back before the 1,000 years of peace.
Right.
So I would say as far as Israel and Jerusalem goes, I'm just not willing to let go of this makes me terrible.
I think 100% true Israel will have all the promises.
There's
I
think it's Isaiah, but there's a chance that it's one of the other major prophets.
Sure.
Talks about
in the Bible it says what?
It talks about land after the earth is redeemed, land is divvied up to different tribes of Jerusalem.
Does it say what time that happens?
Sorry, different tribes within the 12 tribe kingdom. And it does say after this, after a war is won, that this land is going to be given. And I just don't know what to do with that passage, and I still respect it. And I
have a question.
Feel like it come.
I have so many questions. Question. No joke. All right. I'm only saying this because I don't care about other people's feelings.
So when it says the land's going to be divvied up to this land is going to go to Zebulun, this land is going to go to Issachar, I don't believe it's talking about everybody who's been grafted in to God's chosen people.
Because here's my question. Revelation is one that people often go, well, it says this. And I go, okay. Do you think Jesus literally has big keys that's carrying around?
Or a dragon knocks down a third of his stars. Like a
yes.
literal dragon.
I say yes to both of those.
Here's my question.
I'm totally serious. Yes.
The reason I bring it up is when it says there's representatives.
Right.
I go, how do you know there's not people even descended from those tribes who have already been saved? Because here's the thing. This is the thing that makes me a little nervous. It says every tribe and tongue. I go, how do we know there hasn't already been representatives in history from that tribe or that tongue? We just don't know. I just have questions because I think we take it for granted going, well, they're being literal. I go, it's funny. When it's homosexuality, we're super literal.
Right.
When certain other parts, we go, well, clearly that's metaphor. Like Genesis, we always go, well, that's clearly literal here. My concern is this. You haven't done this. You've never done this. You've always been fair about it. My concern is when people go, I'm going to make it literal when it suits my political aspirations, but I'm going to make it metaphorical when it comes to refugees and other things.
Right.
And here's the thing. When you go outside America, and go, hey, let's look at European, Asian, South American, African, Michael Bird from Australia, different theologians, they go, I'm not seeing this. And I'm not saying it's heresy, because heresy to me is you're saying something that goes against the first councils. But it is odd to me when I see other countries going, we don't see this, and America is so certain. And you haven't gone down this road, but I've seen...
That's a fair critique, because most premillennials
I mean, I'm not trying...
But
I
that's
don't want to
mostly
do a
dispensational,
caricature.
though. That's like mostly
It's not
dispensational.
historical, is it?
Yeah.
Well, even
that's
some
America's
historical premills,
dispensational.
and so
Because it's just white people, right? None of us like them.
Yeah.
Basically.
Sponsored by white people.
So that's my opinion, which Seth has dismantled simply on the podcast, but I still refuse
I'm sorry.
to get into
I'm
it.
not trying to be a
And I
jerk.
do believe literally a dragon knocks a third out the stars out of the sky.
Question.
So-
Can a sword kill him?
I want to move the dragon,
Yeah.
the right sword, the
Because
sword
Paradise
pulled from the
Lost,
mouth.
John Milton, Michael cut him down.
Yeah, Michael fights
Which
him,
is
but I think
I
he
love
needs
how I'm
the
bringing
right
up a
sword.
fictional book by a guy who didn't even I don't even know if he was a good husband.
Yeah, I don't
John
know.
Milton. He's like, I just am a Calvinist who doesn't like people, but
Well, Paradise Found is oh sorry,
that's not
never
my
mind.
favorite book. Paradise
anyways.
Lost I read when I was 8. When I was homeschooled.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem.
Hashtag Kirk Cameron.
So moving away from premillennial.
Sorry,
So
guys.
so because I believe that Jesus is going to set up this peaceful 1,000 years.
Yeah.
I assume, probably unfairly assume, that the world's just going to get worse and worse until Jesus comes.
Correct.
Now there's two other views, amillennial and postmillennial. Does anybody want to represent
Who knows?
amillennialism?
I'm trying to think of someone who supports Postmill that we know. It's so uncomfortable. I just
All
can't.
the people that you bashed on in the past podcast.
Can I bring up
Greg.
something? Okay.
Okay.
Bonson and Doug Wilson.
Here's my issue. So if Doug Wilson wasn't himself, here's the thing that, all right, and I'm going to be brutally honest.
Seth, which eschatology do you ascribe to?
Dude, so let me put it this way. I used to be hardcore dispensational rapture. Like, I read the Left Behind books. I loved it. I was like, I'm going to be part of a battle. I'm going to kick butt. And then a year later, I was hitting people with bats wearing a hockey mask. But, all right, here's the thing. This isn't...
Because
Because
things
left the
were
faith.
getting
not
worse.
Because, not
Yeah.
because you were
I
subscribing
think it's
to
because 9/11
dispensationalism.
happened. I was like, dispensational. Here's the thing. And it's not a hill I'll die on because all right, this could sound so bad. The only eschatologies I'd support, I'm trying to be so civil here,
Just say it.
is Amill or Postmill. And the reason Postmill, I think, spoke to me so much, and I've gone back and forth, because eschatology, I have to be honest, is the one I'm most insecure about, because I don't feel competent in it. I felt so often reading it going, gosh, maybe I'm being arrogant, maybe I'm being foolish. And part of it's just my whole life. Whenever I've gotten into academic stuff, I've never felt like a competent guy. Like, even as a pastor, I fought just because I was like, I'm in this role because God called me, but I don't have an education. I have a criminal record. I just genuinely was a pastor because I love people. I saw their value, dignity, worth. The thing I loved about Postmill was I'd read about this description of it being this mighty tree of God's victory. And I wanted to believe that God was going to do this big, big thing. And people bring up arguments. I'm like, it's not even that my Amill brothers were idiots. They said arguments where I went, okay, that's decent. But I just so much want to believe that when it talks about God's victory, that's going to go out and do this amazing thing. And I've wrestled between Amill and Postmill. And even if now, if I went Postmill, it would be, and I don't even like the term hopeful, but someone actually told me like hopeful can be in the Bible, an informed, strong hopeful. I want to believe that God's going to do bigger than we think. Because I think about the scripture that says his word goes out, and like even with the like snowflakes, it accomplishes what he wants. I so much want to believe he's going to do this mighty thing, and that maybe it doesn't look how we think. But I couldn't. It's so bad. I couldn't be premill. I've tried. I could only land either amill or postmill, and even if I landed amill, it's got to be one who believes that at the end of the day, the earth is better than we thought. Only because I just think it's going to be more victorious than we think. I've just seen, and we kind of go, well, America, it's here. I go, well, what about South America and Asia? And I don't know. It's hard because eschatology is one of the ones I feel less competent in. If you bring up social issues, I've read about the Native Americans, Africans, everything. But when it comes to eschatology, it's really been, I'm going to be so brutally honest. Eschatology is one that I'm not an educated guy. I'm really not. Eschatology has been me finding guys smarter than me, reading it and going, oh man, that sounds kind of right. The only time I think with Postmillenialism I run into an issue is they bring up some stuff with suffering, and it has to be only specific context where I go, I don't know, I have to kind of wrestle through that. But I don't know, I just think it's going to be so much bigger than we think.
What if,
I know that's hard, but it's like, I feel like there's nuance there. I don't know.
So you're just saying, that
I couldn't be premill. I'm saying that my best friend. I can't agree with you.
You're
so
maybe
sorry.
a little postmill, maybe a little amill, but definitely not premill. So I think that since we know Tyler is a jump up and down postmillennials, maybe you should define amillennialism for people.
Oh, okay. So, and the reason I say this is it goes back to my prior argument. I haven't researched it as much, and I'm so hesitant on stuff. But postmill is this idea that Tyler and I are right. No. Okay, so here's the thing. Amill and postmill, rapture, we can usually talk about that. We go, come on, like, we don't really believe it. Israel, we usually, for the most part, agree on a lot of points. But when you talk about the millennium, you go, okay, is it just going to be a suffering and it sucks and it's just bad till the end? Or is there some victory where there might be this beautiful earth that before God comes back, not perfect, not necessarily where like it's impossible for humans to sin, but postmill will go, no, I think this might actually come back and do what God says and fulfill it. Postmill, I feel like I don't like the word optimistic. I feel like it really is looking at going, there's gotta be more victory and fulfillment of, no, we'll see a good come in the earth. Whereas amill is more, well, we'll have back and forth, we'll have good and bad.
The spiritual victory, though. In amill. Always spiritual victory, not physical victory.
You're not going to see a physical, whereas postmill, you can really see like, oh my gosh, the earth actually got good.
So
he sent out his word and it came back full. And I just, I don't know, maybe this is my bias, but I look at it and I go, I have this like glimmer in my eye where I go, well, what if God did that?
Yeah, if it's not
See,
true.
I'm already getting amped up.
If it's not true, you want it to be true.
yeah.
Right?
I agree with that.
If it's not true, you want it to be true.
It's hard. I'm trying to be
premillennial,
civil, but he says that, and I'm like...
Can I just say that as a premillennial, I want amill or postmill to be true.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just don't believe they are. So,
but we
we'll say
agree that
premillennial.
everyone who's a Baptist is going to become a cyborg. Like,
Absolutely.
we agree, right?
So we'll say
Why do you agree with this? Why do you enable me in this?
Premillennial believes that Jesus comes back and kind of initiates the 1,000 years of peace that's talked about. Amillennial believes that Jesus
is reigning from heaven.
Jesus has already started that 1,000 years of peace in a spiritual way, not in a physical way. Tyler.
Postmillenial believes that Jesus' reign was initiated on the cross and his ascension, but also grows throughout history, where it eventually takes over the whole world in a millennial kingdom. Whether it's 1,000 years or a figurative 1,000 years, it's a physical reign of Christ's church on earth, which is his reign still on earth.
That's the best definition we've had. Can I just say Tyler's not reading from anything? He's literally looking me in the eye as he says this right now. Oh, yes.
I just drew a picture of Buns walking. Sponsored by Buns. Well, because here's the thing. I legitimately... All right, this is hard. So I've been in Carson lately, trying to like build their church up, support them. Eschatology is what I struggle with because, and I really think it's emotional. I don't think this theology. I really look and people say stuff and I go, man, I feel so incompetent and insecure with it. Like there's some stuff people bring up like, what's the easy one? They go, well, but what about Christology? I go, no. I've read like 20 books on boom. When they bring up eschatology, I feel so doubtful about it. And yet we have friends who speak with such confidence on it. And I'll admit.
Like Tyler.
Well, him and others, guys who I respect, like James. I love James. We hit up an Irish pub, which already makes me love him. I feel so insecure about it. So it's hard for me because when I'm speaking, the emotional confidence isn't behind it. Versus when you bring up other stuff, I go, I've read on it. And I think it's because when I grew up, I had so many guys speak on stuff they didn't study. So I have this worry of like, oh, well, what if I act like them? What if I do? Even though what Tyler's saying, I go, yes, I'm like ready. I'm like ready to kick in the door. I'm like, yes, that's right. Like, cause Tyler said stuff on Facebook and I'm like, I want to in the comments say you're all wrong, but like, I'm trying to be civil, but a part of me just, okay. So when I got saved in jail, I was so happy just to be saved. But it also gave me this confidence that what God says has power. And when it goes out, it'll come back and actually have like achieved what he did. And in sovereignty, I don't believe he's going to do something mighty because I'm trying to be optimistic or some, garbage like prosperity gospels because I think he's that big. I think of Caleb. Caleb wasn't confident because he was that great. I think Caleb looked and was like, man, God's that big. He'll do it. And I'm hoping, praying that when I preach, I expect do you notice every sermon I preach, I have at least like 3 invitations to the gospel, expecting because I expect people are going to hear it and go, no, the Holy Spirit's going to work and change something. And if someone says, well, that's your personality, fine. But dude, I am fine. I am fine with dying, going before God, and Jesus looking at me going, you were way too hopeful. You thought I was going to do too much. If that's his accusation against me, I will take it, dude. If that's the one thing I'm wrong against, that like God goes, you thought I was going to do too much, I'll take that over universalism, over Pelagianism, over some garbage heresy that God goes, you had too much hope that I was going to turn this world around, because I don't think he's given up on creation. And so I've debated this with guys, but the cool thing is, I'll say this, I'm surrounded by elders that when I've spoken about this, they haven't been jerks. They've sat down with me one-on-one and talked to me through it and asked me what I thought. And when I told them, they weren't rude at all. They like embraced me. I had at elder retreats, I've had dude with like, I'll call him H. I've had discussions with him where legitimately I was like, I felt like he heard everything I said and he didn't even rebuke me. He goes, well, that seems cool, man. And I'm like, you're mill. And he listened and spoke and that's why I serve with those guys, because to have guys who respect me and listen to me that much. And this was an hour discussion with multiple elders. And he was like, cool, man. And listen to me. I believe God's going to do something great, man. It's so much in my heart and I may be wrong, but I am fine with thinking God's bigger than I think. I don't know. Yeah.
We're the minority though, for sure.
Are you kidding? Of course we are, dude. It's not popular. Like,
however, first of all, Seth, are you a post-millennial?
Yeah.
Dude.
Say it.
I would legitimately say.
Don't be a fence walker right now.
I know. I would say, no, because I legitimately, because I've heard some arguments where I'm still wrestling with it, because I want to make sure any position I take, I have to have a theological argument. I haven't read what you have. I'm going to say Tyler's has researched some stuff that I am not that educated. If I ever support a mill, it has to have
Crazy optimism.
It has to have this caveat that there's going to be this amazing movement
Right.
at the end.
Yeah.
Or post-mill. I cannot be pre-mill.
Yeah, I can back that. For sure.
And I wouldn't just say hopeful, because hopeful to me sometimes, and I get the scriptural argument, hopeful sometimes to me is like, I think it might happen. I believe 100% God's going to do some huge thing. But I'm not sure. But those are only two things I could do, is either an email that says, I believe God's going to do something huge, or a post-mill that says, dude, he's going to come in, but has some answer of suffering. I can't be, and I love Sean. I've known him so many years. I can't be pre-mill.
And that's okay. I'm
Is
not worried
it
about
though?
that. Here's
Is
the
it?
interesting
Because
thing.
I'm sponsored by Kirk Cameron.
Tyler said.
I have his
Yeah.
Powerade in
Tyler
my car.
says that you guys are the minority, and I agree with that.
We are the
The
dude.
main
It's
reason
not
I agree with
popular.
that is that you guys are respectful. And
That's also the minority.
That's
Not
exactly what I'm saying. One of the main reasons, and I know that this is an emotional position, one of the main reasons I can't be a postmillennial, even though I want to be, is that the majority of postmillennials I meet are jerks. If you're so optimistic, why
Well,
is it
stop
so often that
slashing
you
your
get
tires,
jerks?
Sean.
Hey,
Jerk.
if they believe in the kingdom of God ushering in all the time. If I slash their tires, it's just part of the movement of angels and things like that. So here's what I'm saying.
Which, by the way,
We
I'm only saying that
respectfully-
nuance is the enemy of American evangelicalism. Nuance.
Isn't that true?
Yeah.
It has to be, you're this or this. They go, oh, you disagree with Trump, you love Hillary. False. And that's why I'm saying eschatology. I'm not trying to be like ridiculous, but I've been told by American evangelicalism, all right, you either have to hate Tyler or you have to think this. And that's such
Exactly.
garbage. Instead of having a discussion with Tyler saying, hey, why do you think this? And ask him as an important, like intelligent, dignity and worth image bearer, where Tyler said stuff where I go, crap, maybe I should be post-mill. He said stuff I go, man, and I've had discussions with H where legitimately I went, you didn't change my mind necessarily here, but you made me refine it here. That's why I do nuance, because people go, well, I want this. I go, I'm not going to answer American. I feel like American evangelicalism has failed people.
Yeah.
And guess what? We have. I'm sorry, but I think we could have done better. I think we could have had robust theology that changed people, and they went, man, this is a better story, and we failed them utterly, and it's disgusting. It's heretical.
Yeah.
Sponsored by Powerade.
I agree with you 100% that
You love Israel more than anyone, you heretic.
that it's so easy. Oh, I shouldn't even say that. It's so convincing to listen to people's argument that are actually at the same time they're arguing with you are displaying the communicable attributes of God, as opposed to people who are just being jerks and good debaters or good arguers. And
Dang,
I don't want to, it doesn't matter whether they've convinced me or not. I don't want to be like those people.
No.
And the fact that most of those people are postmillennials is not my fault.
It's a coincidence.
It's their burden to prove. But, and so, like, for example, Doug Wilson, it's not his postmillennialism that makes me dislike him. It's his tribalism, racism, and, like, the way he...
Are you really calling Doug Wilson a racist?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Doug Wilson is a racist. I
Dang.
just said that. Also,
Legitimately calling him a racist right now.
I think he legitimately
So we're not
is
sponsored by
a
Doug
racist.
Wilson anymore.
I think that Doug Wilson has a social or political view that overrides his understanding of the image of God. I'm saying that right
Is
now.
it because of his book, Black and Tan? Because,
It's
by the
because
way,
he
am I
doesn't
the only
support
one who's
Irish
read
people.
that? I've actually read.
And I have more reason to love Doug Wilson than anything. he hits on some nerves that I really agree with.
Yeah.
He has a beard. He's has a really nice bookcase in the background
with
like,
an old Rasputin in the background too.
Yeah, he has
Always.
that old Ras in the back. I have more reason to love Doug Wilson, but I just dislike some of his perspective. Also, I love Kirk Cameron, but I completely 100% disagree with Saving Christmas and the relevance of that. And also, I kind of disagree with some of the Left Behind stuff, but I love him to death. And so both Kirk Cameron and Doug Wilson, I would allow into my house for dinner. I don't feel like I would be allowed into their house for dinner.
Can I bring up something? Okay. Michael Bird from Australia is good friends with N.T. Wright, and yet was able to say his view of justification frustrates me. And they're friends. But there was this civility of, hey, we're both image bearers. We can talk about this. What frustrates me most is not that people have different views than me. It's that I'm supposed to be this person full of the Spirit, saved. Like I'm supposed to go to prison. And yet when I discuss with someone who doesn't agree with me, I go, well, I have to be contentious. I have to be rude. I have to be abrasive. And I see a Savior who's so humble, who knew his victory was assured. So he had this confidence. He had this power. He didn't have to be just condescending. He didn't have to be abrasive. And my problem with America is they would look at you, Sean, the majority of people would look at you and go, so are you this or this? And they have their qualifiers. And if you said no to any of them, they go, you're not saved. They'd be harsh. They'd ask how you vote. They'd be condescending. They'd be unloving. I think about the first commandments where they go, love your God, love your neighbor. And America, the issue isn't to me of, okay, are you Presbyterian? Are you Baptist? Are you this? The issue is I go, instead of this biblical foundation, it's really, hey, you liberal or conservative? Hey, are you on my team or not? As opposed to Joshua where he goes, hey, are you with us or not? He goes, I'm the Lord's army. Like I'm the leader. And we should be asking, saying, am I with the Lord? Instead we're asking, well, is God with me or not? You're not the standard. And it drives me nuts because we've had heresy where Obama, abortion goes down 12% and George Bush stays the same.
Yeah.
What the heck?
How crazy is that?
And we go, well, this king will bring our salvation. I'm like, we didn't learn with Saul. We didn't learn with Uriah. We didn't learn with Asa. And it's ridiculous because I've never asked people not to have convictions. I've asked them not to worship them. These political convictions. And I can look at someone like James, who we don't see eye to eye on everything, but he's looking at the Bible, trying to build a foundation, try to find something, because if you go Europe, Asia, anything, they have a foundation. America, we go, the Constitution is our 10 Commandments.
It's on our dollar bill.
And we have that, and we have this false foundation. And then when someone like me says, hey guys, Trump says grab them by this, are they image bearers? I thought we shouldn't talk that way. They go, or are you a communist? I'm like, that wasn't the insult in the Bible. In the Bible, the biggest condemnation was, oh, you're an unbeliever, you're a Philistine, you're this, and us.
Uncircumcised.
Yet the American insult isn't uncircumcised, unbiblical, unchristian. It's you're un-American.
Right.
Because un-American is this road to salvation, even though it's garbage. The flag did not bury my sins. And that is ridiculous. And the cross is not red, white, and blue. It is this tree that he was cursed on. And it drives me nuts. And the fact that I have to defend myself and you have to defend yourself, that we have to have a podcast to have some of us have this discussion. Because if we did in a public square, if it was Russell Moore discussing with R.C. Sproul, one or two of them would be crucified for not supporting this all-American government gospel of saving us through the democracy that's murdered 15 million unborn children, that's killed the Native Americans, and it's a joke. And I sit there and I'm a pastor in this system. And that is my struggle. And it just is a joke. Sponsored by Powerade. I love you, babe. I'll be home soon, I promise.
Well, I think that's... Well, actually, no. I want to hear one last thing from Tyler.
Is it about Thor?
It's
No.
gone- it's
Okay,
gone 2
Tyler,
hours
this is
now,
yours.
But all right.
It's been a while, but we're going to edit some things out.
All
We'll
right.
edit all Seth's cussing.
So, like, you can understand why, as a post-millennial person, if you thought theonomy was a means to this millennium,
Yeah.
if you thought that by legislating God's laws and punishing and, according to God's law, stoning people or murder or having people put to death for
Yeah.
sins.
You're ending
Is
with this?
appropriate.
Are you serious?
Well, I didn't hear it yet
All right,
tonight,
what?
and I want to
What?
hear it. If you thought
I still like
that
you,
was
Tyler.
the means
Yeah.
to the millennium, you could see why that would be
Problematic.
a terrible thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the funny thing actually is that you hear more dispensational premillennialists preaching that version of the American government than
Right.
anybody else. But that's a side fact. So that's why the distinction is important, that you don't think theonomy, which is God's law reigning in the world, is a means
No,
to the
but a
millennium,
result
but a
of-
result of it. Can you
Of
kind
mass
explain
conversion. So, like, theonomy would be just a result of a mass conversion of a. So, if America tips 51% Christian, like with actual biblical Christian beliefs, and like Seth is kind of talking about, started their arguments with the scripture says this, just like the Apostle Paul would use, not his own power and authority as an apostle, but he would actually just quote scripture. If Christians would actually do that, they would call for their legislature to be changed to be biblical principles.
Right. And that would be simple because you'd have the majority
Yeah, you'd
vote.
have the majority vote in America.
And would, at that point,
Tyler's actually a human with nuance. How weird.
yeah. So at that point,
With feelings.
what would the penal system...
Sounds like penis.
I can't.
Hey, Crossway, by the way, show Baraka. You can't do penis, but you can Joel Osteen. I'll take
Not
an
fair, man.
anatomical term over heresy. Joel Osteen, I'm calling you out. Boxing match, dude. At 165. I know you can make that weight. Shut up.
So
It's a lot of weight
let's
he has
say
to gain.
a system of punishment
Yeah.
in the original recorded law of
Sure.
God, a lot of like death sentencing would occur. Would that same system occur under the theonomy that you're talking about when the scales tip and 51% are Bible-believing, scripturally accurate Christians?
Yeah, death sentencing's like the one of the biggest arguments against Christianity is for slavery. But in Exodus, it actually says if any man steals another man or is found in possession of another man, they should be put to death. Doesn't sound very pro-slavery. It sounds very anti-slavery, at least as America has historically done slavery. Slave owners should have been put to death according to God's law.
I agree.
Yeah, right?
So stuff like that.
How can we found a country based on a dollar that says, "In God we trust"? And
Hey,
still
by
let
the way,
slavery
Constitution still refers to Native Americans as savages.
But
And Puritans always had good theology. They never said anything wrong.
Puritans also put to death their own kind on witnesses of 2 Native Americans
true.
or more.
That's
It's
true.
historically a fact
That's
that
true.
they
Really?
did that. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Put to death their own people because 2 Native Americans said that they did something against the law. Put their own people to death.
Really?
Yep.
I had no idea.
Booyakasha!
Dang,
It's crazy.
that's good.
It's crazy what you don't learn in public school. And I am
I-
publicly
You and I
educated,
learned how to roll weed.
And-
That's what we learned.
and that's how you bring stuff full circle.
I did not. I think that's a great place to end it. I learned something tonight. I
Was
had
it about
no idea.
Native Americans? Or
To me,
weed?
the Puritans were just this bunch of jerks with buckles on their hats, not understanding
You need
anybody's
to watch
perspective.
Monumental, the Kirk Cameron
I'm
documentary.
going to go
on
watch
Netflix.
it again.
Wait, are you actually recommending
I'm not
it?
even
Is it
kidding.
good?
I think it's good.
Is
Oh,
it?
It's
Can
really
I
good.
make a
I
clarification?
feel like, is Tyler
Not even
screwing
joking.
with me?
Not even messing with you.
Can I make a clarification real quick? Seth said at one point he heard Kirk Cameron was doing another movie called
Saving Christmas Time.
The Heart of Man.
Oh, that wasn't him. That
No,
wasn't him.
it was Justin Bieber's pastor. Justin Bieber's
Carl-
pastor.
The Heart of
Carl Lentz?
Man is not Kirk
It
Cameron.
is definitely not Kirk Cameron.
No, Kirk Cameron only cares about the Jews.
And Christmas. But the thing is,
In America.
I will rewatch
This has
this
got
documentary
so much better than
with
I
different-
thought. I didn't even have to instigate.
with different places. I did learn something tonight, and my perspective. I said this earlier that my opinion is right, and I talk about it unashamedly until somebody proves me wrong. And my perspective on the Puritans has just changed a little bit in favor of the Puritan.
I'm a lead pastor now. I do what I want.
talesfromtheditch@gmail.com if you want to tell Seth anything.
I raced
about
a
his
train.
Postmillenial.
Deal with it. Keep it crip. # blessed CrossFit.
Tyler.
Datpostmil.
#Datpostmil.
This is so good. I didn't even have to do it.
Do you have anything else?
No, that's it.
That's it. Okay.
Datpostmil.
Well, I think we'll call
Oh, wait,
that.
one
a
more
wrap.
thing. It's crazy how a lot of the Christmas scriptures that we traditional go to are actually super postmillennial.
Such as,
All of them.
for unto us a child is born. How is
Yeah.
that postmillennial?
The government will be on his shoulders, and his peace will have no end on earth as it is in heaven.
Yeah, because he comes to set it up before the peace starts.
Russell Moore.
At the beginning of the 1,000 years.
Stand
That's
with
literal.
Moore.
He already set it all up.
# Russell Moore. Email me at
Psalm 2 when when the Father says, "Ask of me, and I'll give you the earth as your inheritance." Did Jesus forget to ask when he ascended to the Father right before he said, "All authority in heaven and earth has been given to me"?
And when they had the first Purim, did he say pie or cake?
Pie.
Yeah, here's the thing. I cannot be a postmillennial
Uh-oh.
until Tyler says cake needs to be abolished because of
Well,
theonomy.
see, here's the problem though. My favorite dessert is tiramisu cake, so I can't throw cake out.
That is not a cake.
It's not. What do you call
Tiramisu
it?
is not a cake.
It's a cake, isn't it?
It's so good, though.
It is delicious,
See,
but
that's my problem with
I
the
feel
cake.
like, okay,
I have to
the
pee
saturation
super bad.
level affects whether you're cake or pie.
So it's more of a pie.
Tiramisu, I feel like tiramisu is more of a cookie.
Macklemore brings up
It's a
tiramisu. Tiramisu.
It's a coffee cookie.
Tiramisu. Down, down,
I
down.
I agree tiramisu is delicious,
It's a cake,
but
though.
it's not a cake.
I'm pretty sure it's a cake.
It's like Fig Newtons. It's not a
That's a cookie.
It's cake.
Whatever. Whatever.
All right, we're going to call that a day. Seth has left the building
This
already.
was 2.5 Beards podcast.
This is 1.5 Beers podcast. Signing out. Tales from the Ditch. Email us at talesfromtheditch@gmail.com
Kyle Bateson at
and Kyle Bateson at lschurches.com. And have a happy new year. Goodbye.
Oh,